Good evening, everyone. We are ready to begin the fourth guest lecture of the annual lecture series organized by the Chemical Society of University of Peradeniya. As you already have been informed, today's lecture is based on the topic Plant Screening for Nutraceutical Development to Fight Obesity, conducted by our guest speaker, Dr. Ruwani Nilushi Nugara, Senior Lecturer, Department of Biosystems Technology, University of Sri Jayawardenepura. Let us directly move on to the procedures. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this fascinating lecture, which I am sure every one of you is going to find exciting and beneficial. First and foremost, I warmly welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Ruwani Nilushi Nugara. Next, I would like to welcome Head of the Department of Chemistry, Professor Manavadevi Gane Henege, and the Senior Treasurer of the Chemical Society, Dr. Tiloka Arisena, whose guidance and support has been an inspiration for us to organize this event. In addition, I would like to welcome lectures from Department of Chemistry, lectures from other departments, demonstrators, and all the lecturers and all the students who have joined us to benefit from this lecture. I am confident you will find the lecture inspirational, exciting, and beneficial. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Tiloka Arisena, the Senior Treasurer of the Chemical Society, to introduce our guest speaker.
Good evening to you all. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce you Dr. Ruwani Nilushi Nugara as the guest speaker. Dr. Nilushi graduated with a BSc Honours degree in Agriculture from the Faculty of Agriculture in University of Ruhuna in 2006. Thereafter, she has worked as an assistant manager in John Pierce Holding, and later she left to Japan, receiving the next scholarship to study there. Dr. Ruwani graduated with an MSc degree in agriculture from the University of Kyushu in Japan in 2013. And she obtained her PhD degree in agriculture from Kagoshima University, Japan in 2016. She has won the Dean's Award and the Students' Excellent Award in Kagoshima University, Japan in 2015. She is working as a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Technology, University of Sri Jayawardenepura since 2017. She is a council member for Innovations and Inventions Committee in the University of Sri Jayawardenepura, and she is also in the advisory board of Career Guidance Unit from 2018. She's also in the advisory board of the Catholic Students Movement in the university. And recently, in 2020, she has received the Competitive Research Fellowship to Japan. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Nilushi to deliver the guest lecture. Over to you, Nilushi.
Thank you very much, Tiloka. So good evening to all of you. And I hope this session will be very fruitful to you. So I'll continue telling about my journey and also about the research that I've been pursuing throughout 7 to 8 years. So if you have any questions, feel free to jot it down somewhere and ask me once I'm done. Okay, so let's move on. Thank you very much once again. Okay. So as you would have seen in the leaflet or the advertisement which Dr. Tiloka have been distributing within the faculty or rather the university. So what I'm going to talk to you is about the major that I've been living. It's kind of actually part and parcel of my own life. So plant screening and different screening studies for the development of different drugs, in fact. So which are helpful in the nutraceutical industry to fight obesity. So this is actually what I've been studying throughout my research life when I was in Japan, as well as for the master's and for PhD and for my research fellowships. And now back in Sri Lanka, I continue the same. So when I spoke to Dr. Tiloka as to what the students are should be informed of, so we had several discussions pertaining to this, and she told me that it's better if I could talk to you about a bit of my journey until becoming a professor a doctor in what I've been doing. So I will talk to you about it a little and then move on to what I've been teaching now. Okay. So when speaking about my journey, so I am a graduate from University of Ruhuna, Faculty of Agriculture, as Dr. Tiloka told in the introduction, and majored in animal nutrition actually. So I was belonging to the animal science department. So I was there under the supervision of two elite professors there, and continued my studies and passed out with first class honors and got a couple of medals as well. And as you can see, why I put this is I was just a student, just like you, okay, once upon a time. So I was a workaholic, so I always was urging, I had the urge to study hard and to know more information in any related module. So whenever the lectures finish, I always go to the library, find more information, and keep on writing them on my notes to get more knowledge so that it will be beneficial for me. So I was that kind of a character. So you can see here myself and two of my friends here, they're my best friends. So they were not much into studies, but still for all, I managed to drag them along with me. Okay. Next, and as a professional person after graduation from the University of Ruhuna, I worked as a marketing manager at K&M Lanka Private Limited, which was a construction company, but a Korean one. So they needed lots of information about data analysis, how to do marketing surveys and all these things, where I provided my best of me to achieve those goals. And after staying there for 1 years of working period, I joined John Keel's PLC, the tea department, where it was actually beneficial for me as an agricultural graduate. I was able to contribute at a greater proportion when I joined John Keel's. So I was there for 2.5 years actually. It was a very fruitful time period for me. And for me, actually, the professionalism, what is professionalism? What the private sector is looking in you, that all those characteristics where I gained was from John Keels actually. So even for me, for you, because if you're thinking that someday you want to pursue your dreams to become a lecturer or get your PhD, become a doctor and join the private sector, or to become a professor, or one day all of you might be having some kind of a goal. So if you have a particular goal, but don't think when that goal is not exactly connected to your current position, if it is not connected, don't be discouraged. So because at the end of the day, somehow or the other, you manage to reach your goal in a different way. But that particular different way always give you more of energy, more of experience, more of knowledge from the outer world. So likewise for me, this was the place where I gained, where who I am at the moment, where I gained all this expertise of how to judge a person, what is personality development, how do you develop your own personality, what are the ethics. All these things were gained while I was working in the private sector. Okay. So next, while I was working, I applied for the Mumbusho scholarship. Actually, we call it Mumbuka Gakusho. Mumbuka Gakusho scholarship is a little too long and hard to describe the words. So in simple format, we use it MEXT scholarship, MEXT. So this MEXT scholarship program is actually offered to all of you from the Embassy of Japan, okay, together with the Ministry of Education. So during that time, actually, we had the Ministry of Higher Education. So Ministry of Higher Education plus the Japanese Embassy get together and give this scholarship, which is offered to the Sri Lankan bright students, or to the cream of the caliber of the student caliber. From the all the scholarships are provided from the government of Japan, okay, from their own ministry. So there you don't have to pay a cent for tuition fees, you don't have to pay a cent for your admission fees, you get free education just like you're getting free education here. So it's a matter of applying for this scholarship, and this, because this opens only once a year, especially I think during end of April to May is the period where they open up this scholarship, and they would keep it open like for about 3 to 4 weeks and then close it off. So why I'm showing you this today is, so there can be students who are in the final year or just about to graduate, and even for third year students, this would be an opportunity for yourself, for your sister or your brother, because this particular scholarship program does not only offer postgraduate scholarships, it also offers scholarship for students who have done A levels in math stream. So if you have any sister or a brother who has or who is facing now the A-level examination in maths stream, they also can apply for this scholarship. But the only difference here is when you apply for the postgraduate scholarship, you have an option whether to start in the winter season or in the spring season. So if you start your course in the fall season, then you can follow the English medium course. But if you start in the spring season, part of your master will be taught to you in Japanese. But you don't have to worry anything at all, because the proportion you spend doing assignments and lectures is very low when it compared with the research component. Okay, they don't have something called MPhil. Okay, Master of Philosophy is not available. They call it masters, and that masters, 2/3 of the proportion is consisting with research. So for postgraduate studies as well as for A-level stream, for A-level students, if they have sat for their A-levels and they are having good marks, eligible to go to the university, but still they are having their second thoughts. In such case, they can apply for this particular scholarship. Not many people know about this, so now you all know it, and you could also inform your friends and family as well. They could apply for this, but the only thing is, if you are going just after your A-levels, you will be entering into a diploma college. Actually, it's a technology college. So in the mainland, I will talk to you what mainland is all about later. So they are eligible to go to one of the Japanese colleges there, but first they have to learn Japanese, because thereafter the entire 3 to 4 year 3 year diploma period, and you can get an extension and convert it into a degree after some time. All that lectures, the lecture materials, everything is going to be in Japanese. But there are so many Sri Lankan students that I know personally who have been there, and they are doing well off than all of us, even though I was just there for 7.5 years or time. They are doing very well, and most of them having, they have settled themselves because they are very fluent in their Japanese. So they have done their diploma, then the degree, converted into a degree, and thereafter master's, PhD, and now doing a job there back in Tokyo. So this is a very good scholarship opportunity, but the only thing is, for you to apply for this scholarship, you have to have a permanent position in a job. So for me now, why I'm telling you this is, so you might think you have to have a university job to apply for this scholarship. No, you don't have to, because I am the example for that. I was working for John Keels when I applied for this scholarship program, and I got selected. There's an exam that you have to sit for. It's an English writing exam. So you sit for the examination, do the English paper. They also give you a Japanese paper. I didn't write a single thing because I was not aware what Japanese was all about. So simply I sat for this exam. I got through, and I got a letter saying I have got through the English examination. It was a very basic grammar examination but they screen your history, whether you have a permanent job. All these things are screened. So more than 2,000 to 3,000 candidates come and sit for this exam. So exam is actually held throughout the day. And after that, what happens is they send you the result if you have passed for an interview. So out of that, all the entire bunch of people or candidates applying for this, only 20 to 25 candidates are invited for the final interview. So at the interview, they interview 20 between that time. So during my time, they have only 20 candidates. So these candidates are interviewed by a huge panel where all professors, senior professors, as well as the embassy first secretary, second secretary, as well as ministry officials chair. And then from that 20, they select 5 to 8 numbers of persons, okay, to go to Japan for the postgraduate studies. Apart from that, they select another 3 to 4 students to go to Japan. This is from that A-level students that I spoke to you about. So this is the usual procedure that takes place for scholarship application. So if you go to the Japanese embassy website in Sri Lanka, just type Embassy of Japan in Sri Lanka, and then you will be able to go to the site, and they have a scholarships a specific place. So you could click, and all the information are given there. So here also I have mentioned the same thing. Okay, so you can see here, for undergraduates, there's College of Technology programs for those who have passed their GCE A levels only in the mathematics stream, right? So this is the application procedure that I spoke to you of. Application submission, you sit for the written examination, you go through the interview process, and then and later on they send you a letter saying you are selected. In my case, I was the last person to enter the interview, the panels, that particular room. And at the same point, they told me that I was I was selected to go to Japan, and they gave me the set of applications as well. So for the other candidates, it seems they got it over the phone call. They got a reply from them saying they are selected, and later on in a pack they send you all the documents that you have to fill. But that is not the end of the story. It doesn't mean that you secure a scholarship position. What you have to do is, after you get that acceptance, you have to apply for Japanese universities to get an acceptance from a particular university, from a lab. So if you have a specific major that you really want to do, it could be chemistry, it could be quantum physics, it could be anything that you like. So you have to go through the list of universities that are in Japan, or through friends and family. If you have any contacts, then you have to go through them and find a placement for you. So they give only 2 to 3 months. Within that time period, you have to find a placement and an acceptance letter from that Japanese university, either if it's a laboratory, then from that particular professor, saying he or she is ready to accept you as a student. That particular acceptance letter has to be forwarded back to the Japanese embassy in Sri Lanka with the set of other documents that you have prepared, filled, and submitted, and then only you secure a position. So what I want to tell you today is, go through this procedure. In any of you, in some case, if you find across a scholarship and you are looking for an acceptance from a university, I'm more than happy to help any of you. So you could contact me, maybe through Dr. Tiloka, and I will be more than happy to secure you a position in University of the Ryukyus, where I studied. So apart from that, in the Ministry of Education, they also have different kinds of scholarships available for different under different categories to different countries. So you could also refer the Ministry of Education in that case. Okay. And when it comes back to the Japanese universities, there are plenty of Japanese universities. So there could be students now who applied for this Mombusho scholarship and did not get. No problem. You could even try 10 times. There were some candidates whom known to me, they have applied 12 times. Like every year they sit for this exam, and the 12th time it goes right. So think, not just 3, not 5, not 10, but 12. Try 12 times and they get this scholarship and they come to Japan. So in my case also, I tried 2 times. First time I tried, it didn't work out. And the second time I tried and it worked out. Okay. So apart from that, if any of you are willing to spend your money and go and see how it is during the first year, yes, you can do that as well. Like if you go to Kyoto University website and also JASO website and next Japanese, okay, Japanese website, that is the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. If you go to these website, you can find plenty of information with scholarships where you can apply for these universities, because they are willing to welcome you. So go ahead, try your best, because Japan is a very nice country for you to live. Maybe only the first year you have to spend your school fees. After that, you can do your part-time jobs. And there are small scholarship programs within universities that are not exposed on the websites. So you can talk with your professor. If a professor who's willing to take you, you can talk with him, spend the first year's admission fees and the course fee, go there, and while doing a job you can start your studies. But I warn you, if you are hoping to go there to do your PhD, that way will not work. If it's a master, yes, you can afford to do that. But if it's a PhD, you can't do part-time job and do PhD work. It's going to be too tough. Okay. Apart from this, there is also a university called Okinawa Institute of, actually now, even though they call it as an institute, it's a university now. Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology. Actually, it's an international university at the moment, governed by the American government. Okay, it's a collaboration between America and Japan. They have a beautiful state-of-the-art university, so you could even try that. This is in Okinawa. So in Okinawa, where my universities also belong. So I was there throughout my study period. The cost of living is very low. So, and the environment is more like Sri Lanka. The weather is nothing much of a change, because there's no wind. We have a winter, but there's no snow. So still it's tolerable and a good place to be. So, and it's an island just like Sri Lanka. So you would like that as well. So go through these sites and find your own pathway. So this is MEX Scholars in 2010 from the with the ambassador in the Japanese ambassador in Sri Lanka. So the picture taken, so you can see these all standing students here. All these 4 students were just after A levels, and here we have some only for diploma, and some of them are actually my colleagues now. We all have completed our PhDs and working back in the university. So one student here out of all these 9 odd students, one student, after even getting the ticket to go to Japan, everything being completed, she rejected, even after getting the ticket. So that was a big black mark to the studentship. So I think they have now changed the pledge forms and all that. So make sure you do not do such blunders, okay, in case you're selected. So this was the time when we were at a transit to go to Japan. So our team, so okay, leaving for good to become who we are now. So I went to, this is Japan. So like I told you, the university that I'm talking to you about, University of the Ryukyus, and also the other university where I told a collaboration of America and Japan, it's stated here. So this part of Japan is called as mainland Japan. Okay, so from Okinawa to mainland Japan, it's again another 3 hours flight. So you can't, there are no trains, no buses, because this is an island. So we have to go in the take a flight to go to mainland Japan. So I landed there in Okinawa. So this is University of the Ryukyus. So you can see the vast area that it covers, a huge area of the university, and a nice river passing by. Okay, but actually it's a man-made river. The faculty as well as the center that I was working, Tropical Biosphere Research Center, is right next to this river. You can see here, this is the building. So it is consisting of 4-story building, and we call it Center of Molecular Biosciences. So living in Japan is a very nice experience. So you all should experience it. So walking pathways, the beaches, the flowers, the airports, everything is open for people to go hang around, and also the food. Food is really nice. So here there is a place where restaurants where you can make your own barbecues and make your own food and eat. So everything is nice. As soon as I went there, I studied Japanese language, which was part and parcel of my course. So we had students from different, all our Mombusho scholars, and all of us, we had our different dreams, but from different countries, but we all learned Japanese, for our survival. This is not a course for undertaking the academic work, but for survival. But it was an intensive course, and also it's N2 level equal. So N2, N5 is the lowest. That means knowing Japanese only a little. N4 is better than that. N3 and N2 and N1. Okay, so N2 is quite high, and which means you can very easily translate from a Japanese person to another, your own mother tongue language person, and knows, because they have 3 alphabets. So a person who is fluent in these 3 alphabets actually qualifies for N2 level. So this is where I got my, this is the day of the graduation. So they have different places to visit. This is in Okinawa. Everything, this is not in Japan, but in Okinawa, not in the mainland. So many places to visit. Beautiful place, like I told you, covered with beautiful sandy beaches. So calcified caves are there, and Okinawa is very famous for glass. And also, if you look at this is actually awamori. I think you must be knowing it as sake. Sake is made from rice, but awamori is the Japanese whiskey. And they use a poisonous snake called habu snake to make this awamori. So we went to that particular in the factory where they make this awamori, and we visited and we saw that. Okay, so you can see here huge this kind of huge barrels and bars, and inside these barrels there are lots of these habu snakes, okay, being fermented to be used in the awamori. And when it comes to traveling to mainland Kyoto temple, so this is the these all visiting places were in Japan mainland. Like I told you, from Okinawa to Japan, it's a flight. So many beautiful places. Before entering the temple, it's a must that we wash our hands and our face, just like in the mosque in here. Okay, so we have to wash our hands and clean ourselves and then enter the temple. And this is we with our friends having fun, relaxing ourselves and getting used to the Japanese customs. We call this dress as yukata. Both male and female wear this. It's not a kimono, but something similar to kimono, calling it yukata, more homely wear. And this is the fish that you all know that Japanese people eat lots of raw fish and raw meat. But yes, there are so many raw meat and raw fish, but there are plenty of food for you to eat once you are in Japan. So different kinds of noodles, barbecue, and smoothies, okay, cakes, and you name it, they have everything. So don't be scared to apply for a scholarship thinking you can't go and survive there with the food they have. They have some beautiful food where what you can enjoy. So I have put some pictures for you to see. So many noodles, because that is what I like the most in there, because they have different flavors. So this is the Japanese castle. You must have seen this on TV, or if maybe there are students or lecturers who've been to Japan earlier. So this is we call the Golden Castle. It is actually made with pure gold. Okay, So this is also Nara Castle, a very famous traveling foreigners visit site. So it's very beautiful during the autumn time. So I put all this so that I have visited these places, and I want you to be inspired and to go to Japan and experience this as well. So this is in Yokohama. So the streets are beautiful, very clean, you can see, and they have theme parks, okay, with so much of amusements, and they have so many museums. This is actually a cup noodle museum. You can see here there are more than 15,000 varieties of cup noodle types in this museum. So this is actually for you, traditionally a couple getting married, you know, on the day I just excused and got a picture because it's a memory, and a typical kimono wearing girl. And also there are lots of joy and entertainment for children. In case if you're going there and you get married, don't feel fear and don't have inferiority saying you are married and you can't pursue your dreams. No, you can pursue your dreams. So many things to do for the kids, and it's really nice. And huge shopping malls. This shopping mall is in Okinawa, and even though Okinawa is more like a village, this is their fourth biggest shopping mall in entire Japan. And also Christmas is really nice in Japan. Lots of illumination and places to visit. It's really nice. And also, you, as you all know, there's a Disneyland and a Disney Sea. So so many things. And this is the tallest tower in Japan. We call it Sky Tree. So I have climbed it to the top, and uh, from um, from the top you could see beautifully. The view is very nice, and you can see like half of Japan from the top of the Sky Tree. So, that's about my journey as a and what you can do in Japan. So, as a postgraduate student and as a researcher, my entire 7 lives was spent here in this Center of Molecular Biosciences. So I enrolled there as a member of the molecular biotechnology team. So we did lots and lots of work during that entire 7 years, not just doing my own work, but we collaborated with so many other students. We did there, we got incorporated ourselves in their projects, and we worked together. So in Japan, we have an open in the Center of Molecular Biosciences, COMB. In COMB, they have an open laboratory concept. So what is this open laboratory concept? It means now in Sri Lanka, all our laboratory are enclosed. It has three enclosed like a box, and with a door. All our laboratories are like that. So from one department to go to another department's laboratory, you have to get permission, head of the department. Sometimes it could be all over the place. Am I right? So it's same not only at Peradeni, it's same with my faculty, and anywhere. It was same in Ruhuna. So it's same everywhere. That's our style of working. But for Japanese people, it's totally different. They work together. They have their labs open. That is why they have this particular concept. So if you come across of a problem and your experiment is not going right, you could always run to the next neighboring laboratory and talk to that professor or talk to that postdoctoral fellow, talk to your friends and ask, I'm facing this kind of a problem. Have you ever faced that? And it's very easy to communicate, and research flows always. It never stagnate in one place. So I have a small video to show you. So we have here immunology, virology, cancer, which is actually handled in my own laboratory, cancer and obesity, as well as immunology in a great extent, and also entomology and endocrinology. All these things, laboratories are in one sector, in one phase. And in the different tiers, we have animal laboratories and also cell culture laboratories separately as well. So just browse through this. I want you to go through. So so this is how our entire laboratory is in the third floor. So likewise, we have 4 floors. So all 3 floors out of the floor 4 has this kind of laboratory setups. So this is actually the virology division department in our works. So they do their laboratory work. So whenever we come across of a problem, if we need some kind of a reagent, but we never go and ask. Now, what happens in our case, we always when asked for a region. Now, in here, we don't ask for things. We only share knowledge. So this is a specific room where we share equipment. So different kinds of vacuum evaporators are there, centrifuges are there, okay, for different purposes. So shakers to milk and also ice making machines are there. So this is an ice maker. So this is the milk maker and the freeze dryer. So this is the MBT laboratory where I used to work. So we have our own benches and our own working places. So there's a GCMS at right in the corner and 4 degrees freezers, minus 80 freezers. All these are available there to do our research. So it's actually easy. Research can be done within a very short period. So that door opens to an open area. This is the lunching room. So even the professors, they come and lunch with the students at that time. So that's actually the enter point where I showed you a photograph. So we remove our shoes, always keep them and wear the shoes for internal use. So the professors and postdoctoral fellows and students, we live actually in this kind of space where we share knowledge there as well. Okay. So when you look from outside, on the other side, you can see the university farms and the road and all that are lodging complexes. So that's what I wanted to show a small tour to explain you the open laboratory concept. So this is my team. My professor is here, and this was a postdoctoral fellow from Bangladesh. So my professor was the vice chancellor just before I left. So this is also another professor. So we worked as a team. So every year we used to go on trips. So Japanese culture is very different. There's no much of a difference between the teacher and the student. We work as a team, as friends. So it's easy to communicate, very easy to pursue your research work. So relationship bonding among cultures is very important when you're in Japan. So we cook different dishes that belongs to us and we share it with them. And it's always a nice experience and they booze a lot. So even the girls drink, they smoke. It's quite normal for them. So we go out. So sticking on to your policies is your own personal thing. They respect all that. So it's easier to communicate, but that doesn't mean it's always the work is going very smoothly. There have been ups and downs even in my case during these years. So whenever I want, I feel stressed out, so I always walk in the university. So this is my university, so I walk through the roads and gardens, and so it is actually a stress reliever for me. Not only that, I also used to do lots of extracurricular activities like performances of, I'm good at Canadian dancing. I think I'm good. Uh, I'm just kind of boasting myself, but I think I can perform because I've learned it. So I used to do lots of extracurricular activities to keep my mind settled and to focus on my research as well. So I've finished my master's and then my PhD. I got a couple of awards there as well. So this is at this time, this is my professor, senior professor. He was the vice chancellor, and this is the chancellor. So both president and vice president and myself were there. So they were very proud of me. So among all the other universities, I got the highest number of awards and the score. So as a research fellow, I joined last year, and there I did lots of research as well. So my professor, who was the ex vice chancellor, and my friends and the postdoctoral who has become a sensei or a professor, just like a doctor, as a lecturer, just like me. So we always discuss things at lunch, and it's a friendly chat. So life in Japan is actually beautiful. Lots of walking and very simple as well. So you really should try to go there. So Sakura Bloom is also very nice in front of my university. You can see how clean the roads are. So it's always in Okinawa, Sakura is early than mainland. So this is my professor. This is the current vice chancellor, current dean of the faculty. So then I joined the Faculty of Technology. So from its inception, I was there. Now it's a very nice building, as you would have seen it even on different social media platforms. So starting from the beginning, as a person who's been there, and I'm really proud of where I am at the moment. So we do lots of activities for our students. So I'm based in the Department of Biosystems, but mainly focused area is agriculture and environment technology. So we do lots of activities. We go to the fields, we talk with farmers, we work with them, we find difficulties that they are facing. We come back and put them into innovative ideas to make to come up with innovations. So this is one of the planting projects that our students did. And also different planting projects have been carried out even in the university premises and faculty premises. So all these pictures are of such. And also me and my students, we have won several awards and recognition for our innovations from the former Vice Chancellor, Senior Professor Sampath Amaratunga. So going back to what I've been doing all these years, I will talk to you in brief about what obesity is. So many of you might know what obesity is, and you, girls especially, you might be very concerned of this. So the energy you consume is higher than the utilization. Okay, you utilize less, but you consume a lot, leads to obesity. But that's the main concept of obesity. But other than that, genetical factors, inactive lifestyle, especially during this COVID season, and different environmental factors and specific health conditions and medications also lead to obesity. So when it comes to background of the study, obesity is cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, and dyslipidemia. So it increases the risk factor of cardiovascular diseases after all. Okay. So this metabolic syndrome is an attractive fact because if you look at the statistics, there's a very high morbidity and mortality in the world because of obesity. So that's why obesity is very important. And scientists focused more on natural pharmaceutical drugs. Why? Because at the moment, the medicine that is available in the market has many hazardous effects. So natural materials, if you take, or natural plant materials, phytochemicals, these would help to, they automatically have different compounds which would help to suppress the effect of food intake, or could be the lipase inhibitory activity, helping you to a diet concept. Okay. And higher energy expenditure helps to get rid of all the energy that has been consumed, or increase the lipid metabolism within the body. And not only that, they are very cost effective and easy to consume because you do it daily, on a daily basis, and with minimum side effect. So during my master's and PhD, I studied about a plant called PJT. In Japanese, they call it chomeso, or a long living plant, they call it. They use it as a vegetable and also for as a garnish and as in salad. Okay, so it has been reported that it has some effect against oxidative stress, but not being tested for anti-obesity. So it was me who tried first this study. Okay, to continue different kinds of this kind of plants, what we do first is we make a powder, and then from that powder we do different there are different hundreds of fractionation methods, but in my laboratory we have a specific method that we continue. We do extraction of these plant powders using different solvents. Okay, so different solvents with different polarities. So you are aware So when we take water, with the highest polarity, and hexane dichloromethane chloroform to the hydrophobic nature. So in these different categories, different phytochemicals are dissolved from these plants. So what we do is we get all these phytochemicals extracted into different solvents, and later on what we do is what we have prepared is being used in cell culture. So here I always in my laboratory we use adipocyte cell culture. So 3T3L1 cells, HepG2 cells. These are 3T3L1 is adipocytes that you have under subcutaneous level layer. Not only that, in your abdominal we call it visceral fat. And HepG2 cells is a carcinoma cell, a cancer cell that we generally use for studying about your liver. So these are liver cells, and C2C12 is a muscle cell. So there are different methods that we practice to use these cells in testing of these extracts. So for 3T3L1 cells, it has the morphology of a fibroblast, later converting into a big fat cell consisting of lots of lipid in it. So it has a proliferation period where continuously, gradually it converts into under different steroids. We put it into the medium and it converts into a adipocyte where it can store lipid droplets. These adipocytes are the ones that you have inside your subcutaneous layer, on top of the testis for males, around your digestive tract, and around your visceral fat that is under your abdominal layers. Okay, so this fat gets stored onto your skin and keeps on growing. So what we do is, if we can prevent the growth of these cells, if we can prevent or reduce the amount of lipid that stores in these cells, that will be a beneficial effect to stop obesity. Similarly, in HepG2 cells as well as C2C cell, the muscle cells, we check the glucose consumption, how far due to this particular extract these cells can consume glucose, how far this HepG2 cells can oxidize the fatty acid, the glucose, the glycogen we have in our body. So this particular kind of methods are used to screen these particular extracts to see whether it has compounds that are responsible for obesity. So there we do different EG, that is triglyceride analysis. Glucose consumption is tested. HPLC is used for identifying these compounds, and lots of gene studies are done by using real-time PCR. So my studies mainly focused on gene expression modulation patterns. So I work to a great extent, not only just real-time PCR, but also with next generation sequencing techniques such as solid and Illumina. So I found in my first study by taking these extracts, different extracts, I found hexane phase of this particular plant was showing the best effect to stop obesity. So with that particular data, we were able to publish a paper. And after that, we did fractionation. So even any plant that you think is potential, you have to do fractionation studies. So after fractionating into different fractions, as you can see here, each and every fraction of this is tested against cell culture, and then you find the best ones, and then again keep on doing the same thing until you come up with the best combination. If you are lucky, you can find only one fraction that is comprehensively giving you the data, but sometimes some plants they don't, they work as a combination. So when that particular complexity of for an example, if it's a coumarin and a catechin, if these two are in combination, fraction 5 and fraction 10 gives the results for anti-obesity effect, but fraction 5 alone will not give effect. There are instances as such, okay? So open column chromatography was continued many times during my research period. So we do different extractions, as you can see, in different colors. We used to take samples and test them in cells. So this is a 24 well plate where we practice the cell culture. And from there, we isolate the better compounds or potential compounds and screen them through HPLC and GCMS to find whether this is a single compound, or to, if it is so, to find their molecular weight as well. And also we did in NMR, and we still continue to do it to find different molecular structures of these potential compounds. So with that also we actually published, and we did couple of reviews as well, and find different compounds, not only this one compound, different coumarin types that are showing this better effect. Not only that, we also did mouse trial to because if we are going to introduce into the market for the humans to consume, just a trial in vitro study or a cell culture study will not do. You have to try it in mice and see for in longer periods how mice would affect. So in the fourth floor of our building, we have a mouse facility where we rear mice. So different types of mice are rare, and given these extracts, it could vary from 4 weeks up to 30 weeks. So we get their liver, serum, and feces, and different other adipogenic tissues, and test them against different gene metabolism patterns. So you can see here different mice are there rearing in cages. So this is actually a picture that I have taken from the web, because in my animal facility they don't allow to take any pictures, and only very few people are allowed to go inside as well. So it is some more or less similar pattern that we also have in our laboratory. So we cut mice and obtain their different organs and test them for their genes mainly. So next generation sequencing is also done, and I analyzed my data by ingenuity pathway analysis. This cost about 2 million yen per 6 months. That is, so every 6 months we had this for about 1.5 years, paying 2 million yen. That's about 4 million rupees in Sri Lanka, just for a software. So in Japan, they could afford to do it, and my laboratory had lots of funds. So we managed to come up with a beautiful paper from this data. So I came up with a mechanism of the entire process, how this affects in mice. And with all that, we did a publication very recently related to the mechanism. And now it is actually with the mouse data trials that we did, and after the a couple of studies actually were carrying out. This was the very last study that I did. So based on our previous data, now the cosmetic products are available in Japan for anti-obesity as a supplement. So back in Japan, it's like that. Before things come to the market, it always being tested many times before it arrives. So apart from that, I have tried, and as a team, different types of plants that are rearing in Japan, and these plants are actually available in Sri Lanka as well. So many studies have been done, and we have come across of different publications. So in the Sri Lankan market, you all know many products are there with least attention given, because no such studies have been performed before it arrives the market. Someone makes a product, and then they find it very do a sensory evaluation, and they find they check the shelf life quality, and then it just pops up in the market, okay, for consumption. But that because our food control regulatory bodies under the Ministry of Health has loopholes. So any local producer or even importations, or the garbage comes to our country. But actually, so I don't want to talk to you about the brand names. So, but I have come across, I have removed the brand names and come across of different kinds of products that are available even in the Sri Lankan market, which are not having the proper screening studies that have not been happened. Okay. So in my research at the moment, I have special interest for about 15 to 16 plant types. And we keep on doing the same experiments back in Sri Lanka with collaborations of the Japan, the university that I spoke to you, where I belong, because we have an MOU signed very recently. So with that, it's actually easier to carry out this kind of studies. So that's about my presentation, which I wanted to talk to you about. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll be more than happy to help you out. Dr. Tiloka, over to you. If you want to do, I just kept on, I just went on saying if you have any questions to ask. So I think we have
Thank you, Dr.
many students here.
Yeah,
So
if there are any questions, this is the time to ask.
so the language doesn't matter. I'm not so good at good in my Tamil. I could understand, but I could barely speak. But if it is in Sinhala, English, and Japanese, I could manage. So please feel free to ask.
If you have any questions, please feel free to ask fourth year students.
I'll be happy to answer any
Hello,
question.
madam.
Yes, go ahead.
Madam, that you said that when identifying fractions isolated from the plant, it may be due to a combination of several fractions and maybe alone. If so, if it is a combination, how can you identify that?
Very good. Thank you for that question, Puta. So it runs back my memory because when we were working on a different plant, we found actually a combination of like we fractionated into 17 fractions. So these 17 fractions separately, when we screen it, we didn't get any anti-obesity effect. So to be honest, me and my other colleague, we worked as a team, so we both were very disappointed. So then what we did was we tried different combinations. Now, you know, when you take 17 fractions, you have 17 into to the power of 17 when it comes to the numbers that you can try, right? So it's purely depend on luck. So the first thing we did was these 17 fractions, okay, no anti-obesity, but when before fractionating, when we put it as an ethanol extract, it worked perfectly, okay, this particular plant. So then what we did was this fractionated 17 compounds in their, according to their yield, okay, of obtained yield, we calculated, and this we fractionated into 17, and these fractions we mixed it together. We made a combination, all 17 into one, and then tried it again to see whether it works one more time. To see it didn't work. So it didn't work means, so this 17 fractions, somehow or the other, it would have had a complex, you know, a complex of it could be catechins. Actually, we were focusing mainly on different catechins and coumarins there. So these pyrrolocoumarin derivatives with the backbone of that pyrrocoumarins, we noticed this particular combination when it is as an extract, the combination, the complex is broken when we divide it into fractions. And that's why once it's broken, no matter how much you mix it together, it won't make that particular complex. In such cases, Puta, we can't, even though you try fraction 3 and 7 and 9, a combination just to see whether it works, it will not work properly because it is best when it is given as a crude extract, simply like in Ayurvedic medication in Sri Lanka. So could be a reason why it is given as this kalke or a mixture or a liquid, a mixture of couple of products in a mixture, because just to maintain that complexity of that phytochemicals. And for another example, I would tell you, again, we divided into about 10 fractions there, another different plant. Similarly, it didn't give us data. So what we did was the maximum inhibitions. That means it is not able to absorb or produce lipid or store lipids within the adipocyte. Okay. Some fractions like fraction 3, 5, and 9 gave the maximum inhibition of lipid formulation in 3T3L1 cells. Then what we did was we got combination of these three, mixed them together and tested, and it worked. So which means when only one compound has a very minute effect, but when it mixed with other fractions of where, for an example, it could be ethyl acetate mixture extract mixed with the dichloromethane extract. So hydrophobic compounds and these hydrophilic compounds that are dissolved in either methanol or ethyl acetate fraction, they mix together, then they make form this kind of a formulation. Okay, and it affects greatly at a greater point. So this actually purely based on what you see, and if you need to try different fractions based on what you see in the inhibition of in the screening of triglyceride assays, based on that only we make the mixtures and try it one more time. So for that, actually in my case, of course, I not only go by triglyceride, these extracts I put into cells. So we have lots of money back in the laboratory. So I always do gene expression studies, and I find how the gene modulation pattern is changed. For an example, PPR gamma, SRBP alpha, CBP alpha, beta, and delta. All these are a complex play a key transcriptional role when it comes to 3T3L1 cells adipogenesis. So with all that only I decide which fractions I should use and mix, and then test it one more time. Did you get the answer to your question, Setmadura?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Ma'am,
Yes,
uh,
okay.
uh,
Shamidu.
like in the previous question, uh, what if it's just not one component, but what if it's the metabolic products like, well, in the case of animals, maybe hepatic metabolism or like some sort of a, like a part of the molecule, if it breaks down and then it becomes the active component. How do we
Yes.
study that, ma'am?
Very good question. I like it. I like it, Sachini. Now, it's like this, Puta. You're very smart. Now, we have instances where they play a major role, uh, in cell culture. So, if somebody, even back in our country, I know some companies, they do very lightly, they do a cell culture just to see whether it affects, and then if it affects, they just put it out into the market. Okay, but that is wrong. That is completely wrong, because even cell is a single individual cell. Cell to cell signaling is obviously there, but once we give it to the, we have had very good results in cell culture, and then we go to the mouse trial and we get the mice to consume these products, and then see for about 3 months how they grow and how the metabolic activities would take place. So exactly like you say, what happens is these metabolites, they differently activate within once it is being digested. So when you do a long term study, like for about 12 to 16 week study, you could identify some of the metabolical activities that you predicted in cell culture is not affecting. So that's why I always say, back in Japan, cell culture is a study that we do to screen and to find potential compounds. but that doesn't mean you can produce it and put it as a nutraceutical into the market, because it has not gone through in vivo study, neither clinical trial. So it is a must if you are going to give some kind of a supplementary or a tea or a biscuit into the Japanese market. It is a must. It has to go through cell culture and mouse trial. Without these two, you cannot produce any food or any beverage and produce it into the market, because of the reason, like you say, the metabolical activity is more than the hepatic activity, Puta. We have found the C2C12, the glucose consumption activity, plays a major role in muscle cells, plays a major role to work as an obstruction to cut off half of the effect that is produced by the extract. So some things that we have come across, because probably we are assuming different activities, like for an example, PPR gamma and FXR alpha, they have very high upstream lots of target points, transcriptional targets. So these targets could mainly affect on the muscle movement and energy expenditure. And for mouse, they have brown adipose tissue right behind the neck, but we don't have it. It's actually a deleting fact from the humans. But now some of the scientists are actually working on it, and they find brown adipose tissue again in the novel Homo sapiens development of brown adipose tissue. This kind of large involvement is there in complexity. So in simple forms, you are very correct, Sachini, because in vivo always gives the best result, because it is the metabolical activities in a system that take place. Good question. I like it. Thank you very much for asking it.
Thank you, Matt.
Are there any more questions? Okay, if there aren't any questions, I would like to invite Setma to give a vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm very grateful for our guest speaker today, Dr. Ruvani Nilushi Nugara, Senior Lecturer, Department of Biosystems Technology, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. Thank you, ma'am, for spending your valuable time with us to enhance our knowledge on bioscreening for nutraceutical development to fight obesity, and also for your inspiring, interesting talk. And then I would like to thank Professor Manavadevi Vayuganehanage, the head of the Department of Chemistry, for her presence as well as the immense guidance which always encourage us. Moreover, Dr. Tiloka Aryasena, the Senior Treasurer of Chemsoc, thank you, ma'am, for your continuous guidance and support. Without that, this event will not be even possible. And also, I'm very thankful for all the lecturers present today to grace this event, and it was a strength to us. And thank you all the demonstrators, and also especially to Mr. Lahiruje Ekanayaka for the technical support he provided. And finally, thank you all my dear colleagues for your attendance. This concludes the fourth guest lecture of our guest lecture series. And until we meet again, have a
Thank you very much.